Coast Spotlight, shedding light on the musical artists of the East Coast of Canada. A live production aimed at discovering the artists behind the music, their lives, their careers, their likes, their dislikes, and of course, some quirky anecdotes from their journey through a musical life. Live from the studios of Telil Community Television on beautiful Almadam off the east coast of Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, East Coast Spotlight with your host, Jerry Sampson.
Bienvenue, bonjour tout le monde. So very happy to have you here with us for another edition of East Coast Spotlight right here on Telil Community Television. As you may notice, I am not your host, Jerry Sampson, but I am your guest host, Adam Cook. I'm very, very happy to be back here. I want to thank the good people at Telil Community Television for inviting me to take another look at one of our wonderful local artists and get you to hear the story of how this person has come to embrace music and really come to create some of the songs that you know and love so much. And it's really, really nice for me to be able to do this because in this line of work, you don't always get to interview a dear friend, but today I get that opportunity, and I'm very happy to have it. We are very happy to have with us, right here from beautiful Isle Madame, Delores Boudreau. Thank you so much for joining me and joining us for East Coast Spotlight.
Well, it's my pleasure. It's my first.
Oh, wow. My goodness. I can't believe that. Well, I'm glad I could be able to be a part of it. That's wonderful. So this is a chance for us to talk a little bit about your story, both musical and your life story, and yours is quite a story. I know that. I've known that for a long time, but I am finding that over the course of interviews like this, I learn things about people that I thought I'd known for years, but I still find out some interesting things about that. And even talking to you in the run-up to this, I found out that about you. And one of the things that I am curious about, I'd like us to start with, is your very, very first times ever trying to sing when you were a petite fille, a little girl growing up in Cape Auguste. Can you tell me about some of those early days?
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely, I can. I've always loved to sing, and I started very, very early. I have some early memories of my mother singing at the record player, and she teaching me or letting me hear harmony. And so I got to learn how to sing harmony, and today it's my favorite thing to do. I enjoy singing harmony more than singing melody.
Oh, wow. And you sing it beautifully, too, so I can tell that you really have a good fixation for harmony. The sense I've gotten talking to you as well is that little Delores was surrounded by music, and especially in terms of the family atmosphere you had there. Can you tell me a little bit about those early days in Cape Auguste and about being surrounded by musical relatives and parties and that type of thing?
Yes. Well, I was raised by my grandparents, Lily and Davy Boudreau in Cape Auguste, and my grandfather played the fiddle and a number of other instruments, and all of my aunts and uncles sang and played guitar. But we had neighbors, the Joyce family, who lived right next door, and they were very rich musically as well. And they had, I remember Freeman Joyce, his brother, Mima Joyce, they called him. He was a very, very, very big man, and he played the fiddle. And I would marvel at how he could make that fiddle sound so sweet with those big fingers that he had. And his a nephew was Alfred Joyce, and he has 4 children who are very, very musical as well. They live in the Pictou area. But Alfred was a multi-instrumentalist, and they were home a lot. So it was kind of the gathering place, and music was a part of what happened there. And I was really lucky. I was very, very young and too little to partake in, the festivities. But I used to sneak I'd be in bed, I'd sneak over to the top of the stairway and look down. And also, we had this hole, like I remember in the old days, houses that were 2-story had like this hole with like a grate so that the heat would come up from the wood stove. And that was a great place to watch what I could of the parties as well. So by osmosis and lots of observation, I got my party sea legs and the love of music.
There you go. That's wonderful. You looked through the hole where the music was. I love that image. I love it. You were telling me as well, I'm just curious about this, you had a little help from your aunts as well because of your exposure to church music in your early years. I understand your aunts would bring you to sing in the choir at church. Is that right?
Yes. At the time, the choir in Arishat was large and vibrant, and all of my aunts, and also as well as my grandmother and my mother when she would come to visit, and my uncle Aloysius, they would all sing in the choir, and so they would prop me up in the choir loft, and so, I slept a lot during midnight mass and stuff like that in the choir loft, but by osmosis, I got some of that as well. I love spiritual music today.
Oh, that's wonderful. If you fell asleep during midnight mass, you must have had some of the sweetest dreams happening, I would say. Right on. Now, I am curious too, and this is part of the reason that I'm sitting here at the piano right away, because many people will look at Delores Boudreau and think, well, of course, she's been surrounded by French music and French culture and all of this since an early age, so it makes perfect sense that she would be considered an Acadian artist, but that's not necessarily the case. And while I'm playing this first little song, I'd like you to tell me a little bit about how you had some blanks that needed to be filled in as you were starting to grow up. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I certainly can. As a little girl, and even as a schoolgirl, there was a word missing from our lexique, and that word was Acadien. I had not heard that word. We didn't use that word at our house. Even in school, like we had English schools at the time. The school in Arishat was an English school, and everybody who went there took all of their courses in English. So the word Acadie, the words Acadie, Acadien, they weren't in my conscious awareness until a little bit later. And I can remember being a teenager and learning more about that, where we came from, and, our culture, if you will. I had a hard time with grasping the meaning of the word culture because it's just not a solid object. But anyhow, finally, I did get it. And there was one person who instilled Acadian pride in me almost entirely. And his name was Ken Landry, Kenneth a Pearl. And I can remember going around Petit de Gras. I was 19 years old. He owned an orange Renault with a loudspeaker on the top, and we often borrowed the RCMP's megaphone, and we'd go through the villages and announce all of the activities of the Acadian festival back then, and it was magic. It was fun. We laughed a lot. We had a purpose. We were doing the thing for our culture and heritage, and from that, that stayed with me in a very big way. So just to start my singing segment, I choose a Catholic hymn, and it's not just any Catholic hymn. It is a Catholic hymn to the Blessed Virgin Mary, but it is also the national anthem of the Acadian people.
Ave Maris Stella, Dei Mater Alma, atque semper Virgo, Felix Celi Pota, Felix Celi Pota. You're right, I am Acadian. Moitié Acadien. Actually sang that song with the choir at Holy Guardian Angels Parish in Lordways just a few days before this taping for the Festival Acadien de l'Ardoise.
Adam, I think people would want to know how you're Acadian. Tell us how you're Acadian.
Well, I am Acadian because my mother is one of the Mumberkets from Lordways, and my grand-père was Frankie I. Mumberket. His real name was Frank J., but he got called Frankie I because his father's name was Isidore, so he got called Frankie I Isidore, and then it got shortened to Frankie I, and then just Frankie I. So he had that as his license plate, by the way. He had a license plate, vanity plate that said Frankie I. Some might remember that he drove the bus service, Frank's bus service, in the 50s and 60s and early 70s around Lordways and St. Peter's, and he also operated the Texaco bulk plant, Frank's Fuels, over in St. Peter's for many years.
So Adam arrose à Frankie I. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Oui, c'est ça, vraiment, vraiment. So I got to hear, actually, I remember sitting in my grand-père's truck hearing Angèle Arsenault singing Evangeline Acadian Queen on an 8-track tape in the summer of 1980 when they were having the 375th anniversary of the Grand Arrangement. So grand-père is responsible for a lot of my own Acadian upbringing, I'll guarantee you that. But on a similar note, the next song we're going to do is a song from your childhood, from your Acadian upbringing. Yeah. And we'll have some fun with this one. You might not expect what you get from an Acadian song sometimes. It might start like this.
Boire un petit coup, c'est agréable. Boire un petit coup, c'est doux. Boire un gros coup, ça rend l'esprit malade. Boire un petit coup, c'est agréable. Boire un petit coup, c'est doux. Allons au bois, ma mignonnette. Allons au bois, tous deux. Nous cueillerons des pommes et des noisettes. Allons au bois, ma mignonnette. Allons au bois, tous deux. Allons au bois, ma mignonnette. Allons au bois, tous deux. Nous coucherons dans la même couchette. Allons au bois, ma mignonnette. Allons au bois, tous deux. Boire un petit coup, c'est agréable. Boire un petit coup, c'est doux. Boire un gros coup, ça rend l'esprit malade. Boire un petit coup, c'est agréable. Boire un petit coup, c'est doux.
C'est ça. You didn't know the Beatles and the Addams Family were Acadian. Yes, they were.
We have a lot of fun when we rehearse, Adam and I, because we're both, well, you can either call it creative or foolish.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Yes, exactly.
But we have fun.
Yes, and we've had a lot of fun together. We've had a lot of wonderful adventures within the music community and within the Acadian community over the years. And I remember in 2005, they were marking the 200th anniversary of the Grand Arrangement, the expulsion of the Acadians. So you and I and our friend Jason Williams McDonald went up to the historic site in Grand Pré and we were singing a set over there as part of the celebrations, and we ducked into the bushes behind the stage to rehearse for that, and we were literally rehearsing the next song we're going to be doing in the shadow of Evangeline. We were right under the big statue of Evangeline right there, and it was really a very moving moment for me. But I've noticed in talking to you about this that you have your very own interpretation of the expulsion and what it meant to you and your family, and what it didn't mean, for that matter. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, it's interesting because when I went to St. Yves, I read my very first book on the Acadians called The Survival of a People. And so that was very moving for me. I could not believe it was almost like a genocide or an attempted genocide, because we're still here. But it was it was disturbing to read about that. So I wanted more. So I kept reading all of the material I could possibly get my hands on the deportation of the Acadians and the arrival back in 1604 and all of that. So I grieved the deportation of our people for decades. And a couple of years ago, I met up with somebody who educated me on something that I had not previously known. My own family came from Port Royal to St. Peter's before the deportation. So we weren't deported at all. I'd been crying for decades. That's a bad joke.
You've been taking on other people's grief, like a big backpack with the Acadian flag on it. Oh, my goodness.
Well, I have lots of empathy. It wasn't wasted, because it certainly made me put myself in other people's shoes, even though I thought they were my own.
Yeah.
And it made me realize a lot about why we are where we are today. So having said that, I'm going to sing an English song that was written by
Roger Stone and Doug Sampson during the heyday of the group Breakin' Tradition. And this has still made its way around. One of the members of that group, Cyril McPhee, still does it regularly. And Delores and I enjoy singing it together, too. So we hope you'll enjoy it and that you catch the real meaning of the words here. This is called L'Acadie.
Have you ever been here, where the cool Atlantic air whispers like I did, oh, so far away from here? Over 200 years and 1,000 bitter tears have failed to drown the pride of L'Acadie. Woman, child, and man were taken from their lands by men who got their orders. Then beyond our borders, sweethearts watched from the shore, their loves to hold no more, as they sail from their hearts in L'Acadie. Hear our children play, and we know they are here to stay, where their fathers return to their children and their lovers, to sail back to the heart of L'Acadie. Over 200 years and 1,000 bitter tears, the tongues that give the orders are threatening our borders, and a powerful few with blood like me and you should have learned a thing or two from L'Acadie. Hear our children play, and we know they are here to stay, where their fathers return to their children and their lovers, to sail back to the heart of L'Acadie. Hear our children play, and we know they are here to stay, where their fathers return to their children and their lovers, to sail sail back to the heart of Acadian. Place for you and me is Acadian. La place pour toi et moi in Acadian.
C'est ça, très bien, mon ami.
Oh, merci.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. So, we were talking a little bit about Ken Landry and about the impact that he had on you in terms of building your identity and your sense of what it meant to be Acadian. And I wanted to ask you about some of the artists that you were listening to, the musicians and groups that influenced you in this way. For that matter, who influenced you in any way, because I know it's not just French singers that caught your ears as well, too. So can you tell us a little bit about who were some of the ones that influenced you as you were growing up?
Well, when Mom visited, she loved Dolly Parton, and so she made me sing a lot of that, and she sang that as well. She had a beautiful voice. And then after that, I can remember the first couple of records, vinyl. Je suis vraiment vieille. Puis c'est OK, je suis encore ici. So the first one that I remember was John Allen Cameron. Here Comes John Allen. I love the guitar picking. I love the Gaelic. I love the rhythm, the tempo, the feel. And yeah, he was a giant, that guitar strapped over his shoulder with the kilt. Here Comes John Allen. So I still sing songs from that album like... Oh, Peggy Gordon, you are my darling. Like, I love those old songs. And then the other album, which was pretty much at the same time, was, you won't believe it, Robert Bouchard. The Irish and Country Sides of Robert Bouchard. And I still request some of those songs when he plays, and he gives me this look. But people still love this material, you know, and he's been singing it forever. Like, he's been singing it for, 50 years or more. And so, but yeah, he really appreciates that people are still really connected to those early albums. And
he hasn't lost a step, eh? I mean, it's wonderful to see him get up in public and get at it, so.
Yes, he truly has mastered his craft. And he is a mentor to so many of us from Almadam who, we dream of making music and of bettering ourselves in ways where learning, especially. There's a lot of young up-and-comers who just want to learn. They're hungry and they're passionate, and it just ensures our future. It really does.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about a wonderful experience you had as you were growing up and just getting your feet wet and singing in public? Because I remember you telling me about Cornelia and Billy and about how they had you up on stage. Now, can you tell me, tip your hat to how old you were and what were the circumstances there?
Yeah. For a very, very long time, I didn't know I could sing. So I love to sing, but it's funny with singing because what you hear on the inside is not what other people hear on the outside. Yeah. And my first experience of that was when I was a teenager, maybe around 13, 14 years old, and I had this tape recorder, and I decided to sing into this tape recorder and listen to myself. I near fell over. I thought that I was going to hear what I heard internally, and that's not how it works. No. I thought I was really good internally, but on that tape, I couldn't listen to myself. It was horrendous. I didn't like the quality, the tone of my voice at all, and it took me decades to get to a place where I was okay with that, and that was truly my voice. Yeah. Because your real voice is what other people hear. What people at home watching television are hearing today. Yeah. So I got over that, but then Cornelia and Billy and people who would be organizing variety shows, they would ask me to come and sing a song or sing some harmony or whatever, and I was always blown away by that. I was very humbled by that because I thought, why are they asking me? There's other people they could be asking. So again, it took a very, very, very long time for me to accept my voice and my singing. Do you want me to talk about Le Gala?
I would like you to talk about that, but could you tell me a little bit about Cornelia and Billy inviting you up? Because, I mean, they've been legendary here
Yes.
for many years, beloved,
Yeah.
not just here, but across the country. So what was the circumstance, and what was it like to be up on stage with them?
I was so scared.
Oh,
I shook. Like from the moment Cornelia would call and say, "We're playing here this Saturday. Would you like to come and sing a song or two with us?" I was a mess.
oh dear.
I didn't know what it was, but it was anxiety. Today I know what that is, but back then I had no idea. But I just knew that I was very, very, very nervous. Yeah.
But you did it, and sometimes taking that first step leads you to some wonderful things, and that is why I wanted you to tell me about the wonderful experience you had in the late 90s participating in a provincial singing competition, and this wound up to be quite almost a life-affirming thing for you. Can you tell us a little bit about La Gala and all the wonderful things that happened
Yeah.
there?
Le Gala de la Chanson was a turning point for me. I had been asked to go to Dartmouth, where people from across the province would compete in two categories, vocal performance and songwriting. And this was an Acadian thing. I got to make friends there that I still have, that are still in my life. I know we're all far away from one another, but we are very much in touch. So that night, as part of Le Gala de la Chanson, I sang an a cappella song. And then with a full band behind me, I sang the next song that we're actually going to do. But that night, I won that category. And we had a party afterwards and fun. But the next day, as I was driving home, I was in shock. I could not believe that 3 judges thought I could sing. Can you imagine? I always had difficulty with that part of me. So, and then I thought, you know what? Maybe I can. So maybe I should do something about that. Maybe I should live a lifelong dream of recording or, doing more performing. And so I set about to do that at that point.
So it almost seems like little Delores singing to the hairbrush in front of her bedroom mirror was colliding head on with adult Delores saying, all right, I can do this. Now let's do something about it. And one of the things you did do about it was you started off right away to get ready to record your first album, Me, Myself, and Moi. And I love the way you've described the pattern that led to you actually sitting down and recording an album. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. So after Le Gala, I moved to Shedicamp. I was supposed to do some demo recording there. That didn't happen. The timing wasn't right for that, and that was okay. But I purchased a book by Shatki Gawain called Creative Visualization. And it's kind of along the lines of manifestation, although it's much, much different. The techniques are a bit more down to earth. So she would suggest making a treasure map, or today people will call it a bucket list. So there were all kinds of different strategies that you could use to kind of create what you wanted for your life. So this is what I did. I took an empty CD jacket. I put my picture in it, like just a black and white picture that, was hanging around from a newspaper. Put my picture in it, put my name on it, and I put it away. And 1 year later, I was in the studio with Kevin Evans of Evans and Doherty, ready to record my first album. So creative visualization, I believe, was very influential for me, or instrumental is the better word, to create what I really, truly wanted to create.
First to dream and then to do. That's the way to
Yes.
make dreams come true.
Yes.
I learned that when I was in the 6th grade. I never forgot it. And it certainly seems that's been what's happening here. We're going to talk a little bit more about the process of putting that album together shortly after our next little bit of music. But I wanted to ask you one more thing about it, because I am curious that you almost divided it equally between French songs and English songs on that first album, and I threw in a little bit of Gaelic as well too. And you've told me that it seems to have been, if it was a gamble at all, it's a gamble that's paid off, because it seems like people on both sides of the language area have embraced Me, Myself, and Moi. Can you tell me a little bit about what that's felt like for you?
Well, I spent 10 years of my life living in Cregnish, and I came to know some wonderful people there who I still, love to run into or visit. And I really, John Allen was an influence early, but there was an elderly lady. She was in her 80s, and her name was Bessie McCachran, and she was a Gaelic singer. And I would go to the hall in Cregnish, and I would listen to Bessie sing, and I'd cry. I'd be like, why is this music touching me so deeply? So I went to visit her, and I asked her if she would teach me some Gaelic songs, and she said, yes, absolutely. And so that was the beginning of that journey. But the album did really, really well for me, the Me, Myself, and Moi. I received 2 nominations with the Music
Nova Scotia.
That's it. Where are we? Music Nova Scotia at the time. This was 2002. They nominated me for Female Artist of the Year and Francophone Artist of the Year.
That is marvelous.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that my CD was half French, but it sold a very large number to Anglophones, which was so validating for me and for my culture, so that was great. So yeah, I'm very fortunate that first album did really well. Both my albums are at the Corner Bridge store. I thought I'd throw that right in there.
Yes, Me, Myself, and Moi, and Finally Home.
Yeah.
And we're going to take a little time now to sing a few songs from both of those albums. We'll talk more about the process of recording them in just a moment or two. Just a reminder, if you're just tuning in, you are watching East Coast Spotlight on Tallil Community Television. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook, the Tallil Community Television Facebook page. You can also go right to the website, www.tallil.tv. And we've got a YouTube channel. So if you're watching this on YouTube, and some of you might be, please feel free to like and share. Please click the little bell just below us to subscribe. And if you have any comments about what you're hearing Delores and I talk about and sing about today, or if you have some suggestions for people who you would like to see on East Coast Spotlight, you can put your thoughts right in the comment section below, and we'll be happy to take them all in. But for now, we're going to sing, and we're going to sing a very special song about a place that we got to go to in France, actually. But tell me a bit about how you connected with this particular song and why you wanted it to be on the album.
Oh, this is a cute story. Back in 1982, I was a student at St. X, and I was taking French, of course. They were offering, French, I guess you would call it second language courses. I'm not sure, but anyway. We had a professor who loved to play music, especially at our 8:15 class on Friday morning, which made a whole lot of people very unhappy, because if you go to university, 8:15 on Friday morning is not a great time for anything. And so he played this song and many other songs from an album by Joe Dassin. And Joe Dassin was from France, but this particular song was actually an English song written in the States and translated and picked up by Joe Dassin and played by my professor at St. X. It's called Les Champs-Élysées. And if you don't mind, Adam, I have to throw my shoes off now.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm doing a Rita McNeil right now.
It's a party. Rita McNeil did it, Anne Murray did it, so Delores Boudreau can do it. All right, let's have some fun with Champs-Élysées.
Je me baladais sur l'avenue, le cœur ouvert à l'inconnu. J'avais envie de dire bonjour à n'importe qui. N'importe qui, il suffit toi. Je t'ai dit n'importe quoi. Suffisait de te parler pour t'apprivoiser. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il y a tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Tu m'as dit j'ai rendez-vous dans un sous-sol avec des fous qui vivent la guitare à la du soir au matin. Alors je t'ai accompagné, on a chanté, on a dansé, on n'a même pas pensé à s'embrasser.
Aux Champs-Élysées, aux Champs-Élysées, au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il est tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées.
Hier un soir, des agonies se matin dans l'avenue, des amoureux tout étourdis par la longue nuit. De l'étoile à la concorde, un orchestre à mille cordes, tous les oiseaux du point du jour chantent l'amour.
Aux Champs-Élysées, aux Champs-Élysées, au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il est tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. Aux Champs-Élysées, aux Champs-Élysées, au soleil, sous la pluie, à midi ou à minuit, il est tout ce que vous voulez aux Champs-Élysées. A petit peu d'Elvis there for you.
Elvis, Beatles,
Yes, c'est ça, c'est ça.
the Addams Family.
Yes, because we're all part of Adam's family, yes, and Delores' family. All right, ready?
Grown.
I didn't say all the jokes were going to be any good. All right. Here we go. Here's the next one. This is from Delores' second album, Finally Home. And you actually found this one from Tess LeBlanc, if I remember correctly.
Yes, Tess LeBlanc and I were both featured at the first International Acadian Cajun Festival of Quebec. That's a mouthful.
It is.
Yeah, and Tess, I bought her album there, and this was on her album. She sang it. I loved it from the get-go. I put a lot of miles on this song. I'll tell you, it's a traditional song. And I met in Grand Pré some people from Louisiana who used all of the exact words of this song, but to a different melody. So once again, la tradition acadienne, Cajun, you know, it's amazing. It's traveled, and these songs have held their own over distance and time.
They're part of history, but they're part of a living and growing history. So it's good to see it continue along. All right, allons-y, vive le vin!
Vive le vin, vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour. Vive le vin, vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour. Accueillons les gens autour de la table, apportez-nous les miges de paix blanc. Accueillons les gens autour de la table, apportez-nous les miges de paix blanc. Faites remonter les pâtés sur la table, une cipaille et des perdrix bien rôtis. Faites remonter les pâtés sur la table, une cipaille et des perdrix bien rôtis. Vive le vin, vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour.
Vive le vin,
Vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour. Faites-nous à boire du bon vin et de la bière, trinquons et buvons à notre santé. Faites-nous à boire du bon vin et de la bière, trinquons et buvons à notre santé. Accueillons les gens autour de la table, rire et chanter, danser et très gai. Accueillons les gens autour de la table, rire et chanter, danser très gai. Vive le vin, vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour. Vive le vin, vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour. aussi là et aussi large. J'en donnerai à ceux qui n'en ont pas. J'en planterai aussi là et aussi large. J'en donnerai à tous ceux qui n'en ont pas. Vive le vin, vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour. Vive le vin, vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour. Vive le vin, vive l'amour, vive les amis la nuit et le jour. Vive le vin, vive l'amour.
2, 3, 4.
Vive les amis la nuit et le jour.
C'est ça. All right. And now, something very special. We have an original from Delores, and this is from her album Finally Home. Her second album came out in 2005, and it feels like Delores, the songwriter, really came alive on this album. And can you tell me a little bit about where Prière à l'univers came from? Just share a little bit about that if you could.
Well, Prière à l'univers was almost simultaneous with another song that I wrote at the same time, and it was after le Gala de la Chanson de la Nouvelle-Écosse. And at the time, les fils de Marie, they were here. Père Stéphane, Père Bruno, Père Yvan. And I remember going to the Glebe House in Arishat, the one they tore down, and Father Yvan came to the door, and I was looking for poetry. I needed French poems because I needed to wrap my head around what they looked like and what they could possibly sound like and how they worked. And so I needed to educate myself on poetry, French poetry, so that I could get a better feel for what it was I wanted to do. I thought this would help anyway. I put things in my head.
Well, you created a wonderful, wonderful song, and I'm glad to be able to play it and sing it with you. So
Yeah.
here we go. This is Prière à l'univers. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Yes, I was going to say that Father Yvonne lent me one poem, and I took it home, put music to it, went to Nick's, who embellished it. We recorded it, and when I gave it back to him, he cried. He thought, his own poem to music was really nice. So anyhow, that will be on the next album, which we will talk about eventually. But
Yes, that's coming up.
We'll do this one for now.
All right, good, good. Here we go. Father Yvon, wherever you are right now, this one's for you. Here we go.
Je demande à l'univers de m'envoyer une étoile. Je demande à l'univers de m'envoyer des merveilles pour installer dans ma vie, pour que je la voie chaque nuit. Quand j'ai besoin d'un appui, quand j'ai besoin d'un ami. Je demande à l'univers de m'envoyer du soleil. Je demande à l'univers de m'envoyer des merveilles pour me donner de l'espoir et pour effacer le noir. Quand j'ai besoin d'une victoire, quand j'ai besoin de me voir. Je demande à l'univers de m'envoyer de l'amour. Je demande à l'univers de m'en donner tous les jours pour que j'apprenne à aimer tous ceux qui sont oubliés, pour que j'apprenne à créer un monde de liberté. envoyez-moi la plus belle, envoyez-moi du soleil, envoyez-moi des merveilles, envoyez-moi de l'amour, j'en ai besoin tous les jours. Une étoile la plus belle du soleil, des merveilles, de l'amour tous les jours. Une étoile la plus belle du soleil, des merveilles, de l'amour tous les jours.
C'est ça. Delores Boudreau with Prière à l'Univers right here on East Coast Spotlight. You are watching Telil Community Television, and wherever you are in Isle Madame or Cape Breton or the country or the world watching right now on TV or on YouTube, we're very, very happy to have you along here. My name is Adam Cook. I'm sitting in for Jerry Sampson today, and we are delighted to have Delores Boudreau here, originally from Capoguet, still making her home in Arichat to this very day, and she's been sharing some wonderful songs and stories through the afternoon. Now, we would like you to share some stories about what it was like in the recording studio, because you have 2 albums to your credit and getting ready for a third, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we were talking earlier about how you went from the gala, the provincial singing competition, kind of reaffirming that you can sing. Yes, you can. And all of a sudden, here you are a couple of years later, around 2000, 2001, recording with Kevin Evans, the legendary Kevin Evans of Evans and Doherty. Tell me what it was like working with him in the studio and the creative process for developing this album as well.
Well, when I met with Kevin at, it was, I believe it was a Dairy Queen or a Burger King. We cut
Go
the
big.
We cut the deal right there. And so I started working with him. I went in and I laid, well, he had learnt all my material and written chord charts, but I laid down like a rough vocal. And he asked me, who do you want on this recording? And I said, Kevin, I have like this big wish list. And he said, let's hear it. So I said, well, I would really like to have Natalie McMaster. And I said, if Natalie can't come and play the fiddle, I'd like to get Richard Wood from PEI. And I love Dave McIsaac because he's like the king. And I would like Lisa McDougall. You know, she sings some great harmony, and she plays piano as well. And I said, Kevin, anything you do, I'll be really happy with. So anyway, he calls me up this one night, and he said, I got everyone. I said, what? He said, I got Natalie, I got Richard, I got Lisa, I got Dave. We're good to go, you know.
All in one shot. He said, everybody's here, everybody you wanted.
Yeah, take roll call. So that was very exciting for me, and I was very happy with the product. I didn't have a particular direction for that CD, but it didn't hurt the CD because the CD sold very well, and people seemed to be really, happy with the production of the CD. So, having said that, there was a song on that CD that got me to San Francisco.
Oh, and I do want to talk about this. Yes. The song I Am More.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about where that came from and where it led you?
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was studying psychosynthesis. And psychosynthesis was developed by an Italian psychologist by the name of Dr. Roberto Assagioli. And he had somewhat of a mantra. The whole idea behind it was, yes, we have a body, and some of us may be ill, and we might, have sore hips, and we might have to walk with a cane, or whatever condition our body is in, and whatever our thoughts are, and the condition of our mind and emotions, we are so much more than that. And we tend to identify with what's happening to us at a given time, whether it's a broken heart or whatever. But it's to remember, it's a very spiritual modality, psychosynthesis. And so it's important to remember that we are so much more than all of these earthly things and even thoughts that we have that may not necessarily be in our best interest. And it's part of being human, of course, but I really enjoyed studying psychosynthesis psychosynthesis. I did it for 4 years, and I wrote a song about that particular theme of being more. So it's on my first CD, and you know, I would personally be willing to share it with people who feel that they might be able to hear it, and if it may be helpful. So I don't have an issue doing that. I could do that, you know, via email or whatever.
That's great. That's wonderful. And I remember the first time I heard you sing that, I can't even remember where exactly it was. It might have been at the Creamery in Port Hawkesbury, but I remember you sitting on a stool, just you and your guitar singing that song. And just really, you got right to my heart with that one, with the image that you painted of transcending the body and being more than the individual pain or individual heartbreak that you might be feeling at the time. And that song actually got you to a conference about the various issues in San Francisco. Yeah.
Well, I got an invitation to go to Connecticut to a psychosynthesis conference. They have it annually, so it's an international psychosynthesis conference where you meet people who speak Italian and don't speak any English. You know, it's amazing. It's quite it's around the world now, the whole movement. So I went to Connecticut, and then I went to San Francisco, and I was studying. I was doing my master's in counseling at Acadian University at the time. This was about 10 years ago, and I ended up going to San Francisco to sing at that conference in one weekend.
I still can't believe you did this, because you were studying at Acadia at the time, and you got the invitation. You left on Friday and you came back on Sunday or Monday morning?
Monday.
Monday. Oh, my goodness. Did you get to see much of San Francisco during that time?
I did see Alcatraz from the bus.
Oh, wow. There we go. What'd you see? The prison. That's wonderful.
I was more interested in what I could glean from the conference and what I could bring to the conference.
Yeah, and it seems like you touched a lot of people. I mean, you talked about Hartford, Connecticut, but also about this conference in San Francisco, and it seems like there were a whole lot of people that loved your song and your message when you got there. Yeah.
Yes, I was very fortunate. I sold a lot of CDs at these conferences because of that one song.
Oh, my goodness. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to transition to your second album. Before I do, I want to talk a little bit about the contrast of styles, because you worked with Kevin Evans, who really helped to craft some of these arrangements for you of songs that had meant a lot to you, and in some cases that you had written and were very, very dear to you for many years. You went from working with Kevin to working with a legend in the Canadian music industry, Curly Boy Stubbs, also known as Paul Mills. And some of our people watching today might recall the name Stan Rogers. You might know that name. Curly Boy Stubbs worked and toured with Stan for many, many years before Stan passed away in 1983. So can you tell me a bit about what was different about working with Kevin and working with Paul, with Curly Boy in the studio? How do you compare the two of them?
Well, the album with Kevin Evans has more of a Celtic feel because that is who he is. When I went to Toronto to record with Paul Mills, I found he had an entire network of musicians available to him, and many of them were bluegrass musicians. So my second CD has more of a bluegrassy country feel.
It does, yes. Yeah, right on. But did you like that? Because I know you have a fondness for bluegrass and for country. So was that something where they presented this to you and you thought, well, you know, I might enjoy that? Or did you come in thinking, well, let's take advantage of who we have here and make this a totally different sound? What was the thinking there?
Well, you know what? You have to kind of go with the flow.
Yes.
You have to go with the flow. And I wanted something new and I wanted something fresh. And so I did meet with Paul Mills. We did a pre-production meeting in Charlottetown at the ECMAs the year before I actually flew in to record. And I knew at that point, because he was playing me some of my material, and he said, how about this? Does this feel right? what do you think of this feel for this song? And there was one song that had a Cajun feel that he turned into bluegrass.
Oh.
It's all good.
Oh
It's all
my
good.
goodness, he could do it. And I remember you playing me some of those tracks, and one of the tracks you played for me was a duet that you did with John McDermott on the lovely Stanley Collins song "Oh Do You Remember," but neither of you were in the same studio when those vocals were recorded, if I remember correctly. Was that correct?
That's right. Well, I'd love to tell that story because I think it's a story that could be of interest to the viewers.
Yes, I'd like to hear that.
Yeah. So what happened was a couple of years before my CD was recorded, John McDermott came down to Troy to visit Natalie McMaster and her parents because Natalie had toured with him for a while.
Yes.
And that's where I met him. And so we had sung some songs and, had some really nice times at the McMaster house. So on, a couple of years after, on Christmas Eve, my meme had taken a stroke, and she was staying at my Aunt Claire and Uncle Fred's. So I said to my tante, you go to midnight mass, I will stay with meme, because she was wheelchair bound. So the phone rings at about maybe 11:15. And it's John McDermott.
On Christmas Eve?
On Christmas Eve.
Oh, my goodness.
And he says, come caroling with me.
Oh.
And I said, well, I can't because I'm sitting my meme so that my aunt and uncle could go to midnight mass, and this is not good timing. Can I take a rain check? I asked him. By all means, he said. So when it was time to record, I called him. And it was, a couple of years had passed, and I said, it's Delores Boudreau, and I'm calling because I have a rain check, and I want to use it. And he said, okay, what you got going? I said, I'm recording, and I'm recording in Toronto, and you live in Toronto. Would you please do this duet with me? By all means.
Oh, the duet is just lovely, and that is an amazing story. By the way, if my mom Rose is watching in Lordways, she has loved John McDermott for the better part of 25 years and hugged him after one of his concerts in the early 90s at Sarek, so she'll be very happy to hear that John McDermott invited you caroling on Christmas Eve and got the chance to do this with you. That's wonderful. I have not had the chance yet to tell you either on camera or off or in the preparation for this interview and the show. One of the songs that you wrote, you have a number of lovely originals on that album, Finally Home, but one of the songs that you wrote, In Your Eyes, is very moving and very touching, and there was a period of quite a few months where whenever I listened to it in the car, it would bring tears to my eyes, and I would have to pull over because, you can't drive with tears in your eyes. So can you tell me a little bit about where that song came from? Because I've loved it for a long time, and I'd like to hear you personally tell me how it happened.
That I had a conversation with a gentleman who had been raised by an alcoholic mother.
Oh.
And I left that conversation. I always want to make it right, but anyway, I thought this is a good subject for a song. And you know what's funny about that song? It makes my little brother cry.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of revenge, right? He broke an awful lot of my Barbie dolls when we were little.
There we go. Dolores' Revenge is
So-
a dish best served cold on an album. Yes, there we are.
So now I would like to, I know I've done quite a bit of traveling and a lot of playing, and Adam, you've been a very important part of my music over the past couple of decades, and I would like to defer to you now to sing a French song that you know so many and sing them so well. So I would like you to share your acadienneté avec the viewers.
You are too kind. Thank you so much. I hope you brought your Gruyere with you. My goodness, there we are. Yes, we need to get the spoons going. This is a song that I've just recently added to my repertoire, and it is one written by a wonderful singer-songwriter from Pubnico, from Yarmouth County. Her name is Yvette D'Entremont, and I spoke to Yvette and said, would you mind if I started singing this song and using it in some of the things I'm involved in? And she was really just touched and delighted. This is a marvelous little song about doing kind of what we're doing right now, just getting together and sharing some fun and some stories and some songs and some laughs. So I hope you enjoy it. This is a little tune called Samedi Soir. Here we go. C'est à la coutume, les fins de la semaine, de nous rencontrer, toucher mes grands-parents. À travers la brume, nous mentions la colline pour nous dépêcher avec nos instruments. Tous les samedis soirs, chez grand-père, ça chante fort. Un gros tintement de chansons et de vin. Oh, les samedis soirs, ce café de bien, de faire la fête et chanter jusqu'au matin. Tous les invités apportent leur musique, un accordéon ou des cuillères à boire, une planche à laver, des cordes en élastique et le violon qui sonnait comme un vieux chant. Tous les samedis soirs, chez grand-père, ça chante fort, un gros tintement de chansons et de vin. Oh, les samedis soirs, que ça faisait du bien de faire la fête et chanter jusqu'au matin. Nous étions mêlés, nous chantions à tue-tête. Il y avait tout de bruit pour faire écrouler la toile. Mon cousin André n'attrape pas le note, mais parmi les cris, nous avons noyé sa voix. Tous les samedis soirs, chez grand-père, ça chante fort, un gros tintement de chansons et de vin. Oh, les samedis soirs, ce casse-tête de bien, de faire la fête et chanter jusqu'au matin. Nous étions contents, coincés dans la cuisine, même s'il était tard, c'est ce que nous aimions. Avec nos parents, nos voisins et nos voisines, plus ça jouait fort et mieux que nous chantons. Tous les samedis soirs, chez grand-père, ça chante fort, un gros tintement de chansons et de vin. Oh, les samedis soirs, que ça faisait de bien de faire la fête et chanter jusqu'au matin. Encore tous les samedis soirs, chez grand-père, ça chante fort, un gros tintement de chansons et de vin. Oh, les samedis soirs, ce que ça devient de faire la fête et chanter jusqu'au matin. C'est ça! Merci Yvette pour une belle chanson. You are watching East Coast Spotlight here on Tel Community Television. My name is Adam Cook. Very happy to be your host this afternoon, and even happier to have the wonderful Delores Boudreau with us. She's been with us sharing her stories, her songs, and just recently her spoons, actually. So thank you for giving me a singing spot on your own show. My goodness, that's lovely. Thank you. So we were talking just a moment ago that you and I have had quite a few travels over the years, and one of the things that we really enjoyed doing just 7 years ago this summer, it's hard to believe, we were in northern France for La Semaine Acadienne, a huge folk festival, a huge Acadian festival that the people in France put on in a community called Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer. And it celebrates the North Shore Regiment of New Brunswick and the soldiers from that area, especially the Acadian soldiers that helped protect places like Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer right on the English Channel during D-Day in 1944. Can you tell me a bit just your own raw emotion and your own reaction about what it meant to you to be a part of that festival that year?
Well, it was the artists at that festival were all women from the maritime provinces, and they painted our faces on a big billboard in the middle of the town, and that was a little overwhelming. But Edith Butler was there. Edith Butler, right? Most people like Elvis. I like Edith Butler.
Was that your first time seeing Edith Butler? It was mine.
No, it wasn't my
can't
first
imagine,
time.
no.
But it was the first time I ever sang harmony with her, which was so cool. And of course, I loved Angèle Arsenault, and I wish she was still here because the World Acadian Congress takes place partly in PEI this year. So I'm sure she'll be spoken of a lot at that particular event.
Vous nous manquez, Angèle.
Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer, what a good time that was. That was such a good time. Lots of music, lots of jamming, great food. something very emotional for me. I discovered that the French from that region of France celebrate us more than we celebrate us. And it was the tête à mort, that huge tête à mort, 4,000 to 5,000 people, all dressed in the Acadian colors. A small handful of them, Acadian, all French, the French, les Français. It was overwhelming to me. I cried when I realized just how many people were celebrating us.
Marching through the streets of this little town, banging on pots and making noise any way they could and playing musical instruments and shouting. And you were right, they were all wearing le bleu, le blanc, le rouge, and une étoile jaune dans le bleu. Yeah, they were dressed.
There were some girls dressed in what could have been prom dresses in the Acadian colors. Beautiful. But we pretty well played music every night. We probably had a 20-minute set every night. We were there for 10 days. But on one night, one faithful Sunday night, it was our show. And it was a 2-hour show in a full hall, packed. And that was very emotional for me because I left here with my little traditional Acadian songs, and I went over there and I got on stage, and as I started to sing my little Acadian traditional song that I learned at Pepe's knee, the entire audience started singing with me, and I realized these are not our traditional Acadian songs. These are French songs that are 400 years old or older, that came over with the ancestors and survived here, albeit they knew many more verses than I did. Because some of these songs, they have 20 verses. I sang 5. That's my limit. But that was also a very emotional thing for me, to be able to evoke memories for them, and to be able to realize that we are much bigger than Acadians are a much bigger entity than what we think we are here.
Yeah. And make more of an impact. I mean, you would try to explain this to people, and I would say to people who didn't understand what Le Semaine Acadienne was, I'd say, well, it's like an Acadian Celtic Colors, because it just takes over the whole region, and the pride of culture and the pride of that history just spills out all over. And do you remember on the day of the national celebration in France, August the 15th, where there was the mass service at the local Catholic cathedral, and all the Acadian performers for La Semaine Acadienne were seated together, and at the end of the service, you all got up and you walked out together down the center aisle, and all the people there got up and gave a standing ovation for all the Acadian performers. I was just blown away and moved by the love that you got and that we got being over there. So I'll never forget that experience.
Yes, it was very validating, and I know other artists from here have gone over and experienced similar feelings, and that festival continues, and may it have long life. It's a wonderful thing. Yeah.
Exactly. I know a native son from Almadam, Weldon Boudreau, has been over there as well too, so
yes.
Hopefully there will be many more to come. But you've had other wonderful experiences, and you were telling me about a show you did in Montreal where you got a wonderful response from the crowd, and you had a little bit of a chat with them on stage about the different accents that come out. Tell me a little bit about that.
So at the International Festival, Acadian Cajun Festival of Montreal, I had been there for 3 days, because what they did was I had a full band, but it was musicians from other bands that had been selected that were playing at the festival. So I sent my chord charts, I sent my CD, we rehearsed when I got there, and it was a really tight unit. It was very impressive to just, come together, very professional, absolutely like yourself there, Adam. Got to stick that in there.
I do what I can.
Yeah, well, you have a memory that is like no other. It's amazing. But anyway, so I had been in the city for about 3 days, and when I was very nervous to get on stage, because this was a big to-do, and so I climbed on stage, and I said to them, bonsoir, puis ça fait 3 jours que je suis ici, puis mon Dieu, j'aime votre accent. So they got a big charge out of that because I had l'accent. They didn't have the accent. I had the accent. But everything is relative, eh? It's all perspective. It's how you look at things.
Got to look through other people's eyes and hear through other people's ears sometimes.
For sure.
But I want to go just a little farther west from Montreal because you're getting ready to go back to Ottawa a little later this fall. But one of the most wonderful nights that you ever had as a musician happened in Ottawa, 1996, if I remember correctly. And this was a very special group of people you went up with. Some are mutual friends of ours. Tell us a little bit about what that trip was like for you.
I describe that night, when somebody asks me, describe the best night of your life or the best experience of your life. I mean, this is a long life, though. Well, I have to talk about that night in Ottawa because that was my best night. And what it was, Patrick Lamy, the lawyer, singer from Port Hawkesbury, his brother Bill was living in Ottawa and wanted a group of us who just played together to come to visit Ottawa and to play. So they got the brainchild to hire Buddy McMaster and his daughter Mary Elizabeth. They were going to be the headliners, and we were going to play while they were on break. And it worked out really well. It was in an old theater called Barrymore's. It's still there, and it was packed. There were 400 people, packed to capacity. And Buddy McMaster played, and most of the people there were from Cape Breton, so they danced square sets. And then when Buddy and Mary Elizabeth took a break, we went on stage as Pat Lamy and Kaylee Glenn. There were 7 of us. We were an expensive unit, but we took the train to Ottawa, and it was really quite a good time. That night will never leave me because it was such a thrill to be there at that place and time. I
love the idea that you were all there as basically the supporting cast. It's like, yeah, we're going to fill the holes. Yeah, we're fine. Well, I guarantee you, we had Pat and Kaylee Glenn come on over. You might have been there that night as well for the festival in Lordways during that same time period. And boy, oh boy, it was a wonderful time. I don't think we had more than about 20 or 25 people that night, but Kaylee Glenn played like there were 300, so it was wonderful. It's good to see it all come together like that. But as I say, you're coming back to Ottawa, you're coming back to the capital, and you're still kind of connecting the dots and crossing the I's and dotting the T's on this one. But are you excited about going back to the capital city later this fall?
Well, I really am, because we're putting together a production there, and it's a production that will be on a national scale. And we also, the day before we actually perform, we will be taking part in workshops, like stage workshops. And I love stage workshops. I learn so much. You can never stop learning. And Ronald Bourgeois, the Acadian singer himself, he's part of that. Actually, I do believe he's like the coach. I don't want to say the stage coach, the performance coach.
La craque et la whip, là. That sounds wonderful. I'm glad you get the chance to be a part of that. That's terrific. Because you have a bit of theater experience here in this area with the Under the Map theater group that used to run in Port Hawkesbury, and you brought your friend Tante Josephine to the Wicked Celtic Hoot shows that Under the Map used to do, and that was lots of fun. And you also joined me at the Lewisburg Playhouse and a group of other folks, Krista McKinnon, now Luddington, Billy Joe Hines, and Jason Williams McDonald, for the Fleur-de-Lis Trail Players, which ran for 2 weeks in the summer of 2004. And we were very happy to have you for that first season, and it's still some wonderful memories.
We laughed a lot.
Yep, we did. We did. Also backstage and going up and down Route 4 every day. We laughed a lot too, so right on. Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like to get a couple more songs in, and you have a very special one, an a cappella song, and I remember the wonderful reaction this got when you sang it at La Semaine Acadienne in northern France during your big show, the big 2-hour concert you gave. So tell us a little bit about that experience, but mainly about this song and where it came from, if you could.
Well, I love traditional songs. I love it. You know, I want to rework them, and I want to breathe life into them. And so this is one of those songs, and it was one of the songs I sang at Le Gala de la Chanson. But the other thing about, I like to sing a cappella. And I love to sing a cappella when I have other people with me, because there's nothing like, having harmony on choruses and things like that. This song has no chorus. It's a jig. I love to sing in jig time, and I love to dance in jig time. So, En passant par la Lorraine. In France, they had about 25 verses to this. Not me. I'm not going there.
It felt like France's version of American Pie when we got there, and they were just adding more and more to it. And we looked at each other and we said, I think this is getting away from us a little bit.
En passant par la Lorraine avec mes sabots.
Mes sabots.
En passant par la Lorraine avec mes sabots.
Mes sabots.
Rencontré 3 capitaines avec mes sabots d'Audaine. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho,
Avec mes sabots. Okay, you make me laugh. That's the Santa Claus part.
Yes, Père Noël makes a cameo appearance on this song.
Rencontré 3 capitaines avec mes sabots.
Mes sabots.
Rencontré 3 capitaines avec mes sabots.
Mes sabots.
Ils m'ont appelé vilaine avec mes sabots d'Audaine. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho,
Avec mes sabots. Ils m'ont appelé vilaine avec mes sabots.
Mes sabots.
Ils m'ont appelé vilaine avec mes sabots.
Mes sabots.
Je ne suis pas si vilaine avec mes sabots d'Audaine. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, 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 avec mes sabots.
Je ne suis pas si vilaine avec mes sabots.
Mes sabots.
Je ne suis pas si vilaine avec mes sabots.
Mes sabots.
C'est le fils du roi qui m'aime avec mes sabots d'Audaine. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho,
Avec mes sabots. Ho, ho, ho.
ho,
Avec mes sabots.
Woo! The fun you can have when you get together. Yes. Lots of good times with that song for sure. And this is...
I want to do a commercial break.
Go ahead.
For
yes.
people who sing, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
Yes.
This is the best beverage for your voice.
Yes, water. There you go, right on. So just a reminder that you are watching East Coast Spotlight on Tellil Community Television, and want to remind you all, you can find all kinds of information about the programs we have right here on Tellil by visiting our website, www.tellil.tv. You can also find Tellil Community Television on Facebook. Just enter that into the search engine. There's all kinds of great pictures and videos and updates there. And why don't you head over to our YouTube channel? There's all kinds of wonderful videos, including the actual full episodes of East Coast Spotlight. And if you are watching this show on YouTube right now, wherever in the world you happen to be, don't forget that you can click on the little bell just below the video to subscribe to Tellil on YouTube, and you can also like and share this video and put some words down in the comment section, because if you have any thoughts about who you would like to see on Tellil, or what you like the best about this show, or whether you want to have some more Acadian artists taking part in East Coast Spotlight, by all means, please let us know. We'd love to have your feedback and love to have your thoughts. All right.
So for those of you who are wondering what this is, because I've been hanging on to this quite a bit, it is a fan. It's not a microphone, although I could use it like a microphone.
Yes.
But it is a fan, and it is a godsend. And no, I'm not having hot flashes. The lights are hot.
So we thank the people at Tellil for getting us a little bit of air conditioning here and getting us some water as well, too. The water has helped us quite a bit over the course of this recording. Right on. But now we're going to turn up the heat just a little bit more, because this is a fun little piece that Delores has put together to celebrate singing and dancing. It's called Fricot à la danse.
Okay.
It's called Fricot à la danse. And we are going to share this with you here. How did this all come together? I've never really asked you the full question, history
This
about
was Patrick Lamy, Heather Richards, and myself sitting in their living room going, we should take some trad songs and put them together and breathe life into them and put some fiddle tunes in there. And Heather, as you know, Adam, is a wonderful piano player, and she started playing Malcolm Finley. And yeah, so it just it took a life of its own, basically.
Yeah. And Malcolm Finley happens to be my favorite fiddle reel or traditional reel to play on the piano, so I just kind of lucked out on this one. So here we go. Frico à la danse for you.
Mademoiselle, voulez-vous danser la bastringue, oh mademoiselle, voulez-vous danser, la bastringue va commencer. Ah oui, monsieur, je veux bien danser la bastringue, ah oui, monsieur, je veux bien danser, je suis prête à commencer. C'était la plus belle des filles de tout le pays. Les garçons dansaient avec elle pour gagner sa mère. Mais son père veillait sur elle et sa mère aussi. Colinda restait chez elle, à pleurer sans fin. Allons danser, Colinda, danser, Colinda. Allons danser, Colinda, pendant que ta mère n'est pas là. C'est pas tout le monde qui connaît danser les danses des vieux temps. Pendant que ta mère n'est pas là, allons danser, Colinda. Allons danser, Colinda, danser, Colinda. Allons danser, Colinda, pendant que ta mère n'est pas là. C'est pas tout le monde qui connaît danser les danses des vieux temps. Pendant que ta mère n'est pas là, allons danser, Colinda. Woo! Mademoiselle, je peux plus danser la bastringue, oh mademoiselle, je peux plus danser, je suis trop fatiguée. Ah oui, monsieur, je sais bien danser la bastringue, ah oui, monsieur, je peux bien danser, je suis prête à recommencer. Adam, I'd like to thank you for all those outros, those woo! You do the outro to all the material. It's great.
There we are. See, you got to punctuate it a little bit, eh? A point d'exclamation right there. There we are. Well, we have come to nearly the end of our show here, and there's just a couple of things that I want to ask Delores before we wrap it all up here. We've talked a little bit about the show you're doing in Ottawa. I think that sounds fantastic. But we have not talked all that much about the idea that you are looking to do a third recording in the not too distant future. Can you tell us a little bit about what has the bug kind of itching for you again to be able to get that going?
I've always said that I need to do a completely French album. And I know it's just something I feel I have to do. I have to do it for my culture and I have to do it for me. And the planets need to line up. So hurry up.
Notre prière à l'univers.
No, it's good. I have some material ready. I'm still researching material. I hope to write some more material. I'm working on an Acadian song right now. So anyway, there we have it.
Well, we're excited and we're looking forward to it. And in the meantime, you have ways for people to be able to connect with you and to find out a little bit more about your performance dates, of which you're doing a little more these days. And if I remember correctly, the website is DeloresBoudreau.com.
Correct.
That's correct? Okay.
DEL.
Yes, Delores.
Yeah. My Quebecois friends want to spell it DOL, but here in Nova Scotia, at least in my family, it's DEL.
DEL. And, of course, you have an artist page on Facebook as well.
I do not have an
Oh,
artist
you don't.
page.
I stand corrected. But you do have a personal page, so friend her.
I do have DeloresBoudreau.com, and also I can be contacted on Facebook. I am on Facebook. Inbox message is the best way.
Yeah.
But the other thing I want to say is that Finally Home is available on my website. You can purchase one song or two songs. You don't have to purchase the whole thing. So that is there.
But you should. It's a fantastic album.
It's at the corner
is.
bridge.
Yeah, right on. Exactly. So we want to thank the good people here at Telil for making us feel so welcome and providing us with hydration and with a little fan. Delores will always have a fan no matter where she goes, and that's hers right there. But Delores has some special thanks that she wants to do right now. So take it away, my friend.
So just in closing, I feel gratitude to those who watched all or some of this broadcast. And I feel grateful to Adam Cook. And I also have to thank some people who were my guitar players over the years and were wonderful to work with and so professional. And I'm going to start with the very first one, which would have been my Aunt Betty Richard. She's a good guitar player, but she's shyer now. And then after that, it was Kenny Eddie Boudreau. And we did an awful lot of weddings and concerts. And after that, I came home and got to work for a long time with Dennis Nick Boudreau, who is a guitar player like no other, really. He brings something very unique and skillful to what he does. And Jason Williams McDonald in St. Peter's, wonderful professional, dedicated musician. So having said that, I have to add Patrick Lamy, Heather Richards, Ali Bennett, and I know I'm forgetting some, so I need to be forgiven for that. But I want to thank everybody who purchased my CDs. That was huge. I used to call them my babies, and I used to tell people you can adopt them for $20 a piece. And then I used to thank people who bought a CD for putting a turkey in my freezer. It's all marketing sales. I want to thank my family who have been very supportive, and I'm going to stop at this point because if I had just thanked God at the beginning of all this, I wouldn't have to thank all those people. But it's good to acknowledge people. It makes them feel very special, and they deserve it. So anyhow, thank you.
And thank you, Delores. It's been wonderful to spend some time with you here today. I feel like I learned some stuff, and I hope you folks out there did too. My name is Adam Cook, sitting in for Jerry Sampson. This is East Coast Spotlight, and we hope you enjoy the show and hope we'll see you again next time.